All right, so we had talked about a pre-show. We decided the game was so awful last night, we would delay doing finals talk because the bigger issue, Terry had a Muhammad Ali issue. And it wasn't the same boring, post-mortem glorification stuff that you always see. It doesn't matter who passes on, whether they're legitimately awesome or whether they really weren't that great of a guy and people want to make him awesome. So Terry goes, well, look, that's what I want to start with. And I said, fine, because the game last night, it wasn't even a game. So, Terry, go ahead. Give people a little taste. What you have to say is interesting. The platform is yours.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But Mike and I had talked about Muhammad Ali. And one of the first things Mike said is no one under 55 knows who he is. Now, I disagreed with him until I really thought about it. And I'm going to say that, yeah, he is right. People under 55 don't know who he is because they're not getting a full portrayal of what Muhammad Ali was to this country and what this country was to him. Now, I've read all these tributes, how he's a hero in this country. Everybody loved him. He stood up for himself. He did all this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to disagree with that, but that is just part of the story. Muhammad Ali, when he was a fighter, was the most hated man in America. You see, people under 55 and those who are 20 and 30, you don't read that. You don't read about him being called the N-word, but back then we just said the word. You don't read about the death threats that he made. You don't read about the things about people came to his fight specifically to see him lose. So you don't read that today. They point out that he stood up for his rights. He did not go to the war. He refused to report, after he was drafted for the Vietnam War. You hear that, but what you don't read is how America reacted to that. They hated the fact that a young black dude with a big mouth told the government, I am not going to Vietnam. These Viet Cong did nothing to me, or wherever he used to call them. That was treason in this country, where you had other guys going to war, where you had parents and families of other guys going to war. He was vilified for that. You don't hear that today. The only people who really supported him in that whole thing were younger college students at the time who were anti-war and black people. People hated that. What else did we talk about? How braggadocious he was, how he talked and all that kind of stuff. America hated that too. He was vilified for that. You, as an athlete, did not speak then. You were respectful of others. You won your bout and you walked off. Muhammad Ali didn't do that. He dogged everybody. He talked. He bragged. I'm the greatest. I'm the prettiest. America, once again, did not like that because that's not what you did. Now, let me tell you what happened a few years later before we discovered Muhammad Ali. There was a guy named Joe Louis. Great guy, Mike. You know why he was great?
Tell me.
Because he fought, he won, and he shut his mouth. Joe Louis, there was 7 commandments for Joe Louis as he went through the ranks. 1, you don't take a picture with a white woman. B, you don't go to a club by yourself. C, when the camera's on, you deadpan and you act respectful. That's the nice Negro that people like. He didn't ruffle any feathers. Muhammad Ali said, the hell with that. I'm promoting myself. I'm promoting my sport. America, once again, did not like that. Let's go back to the Nation of Islam. Well, back then, they weren't known as the Nation of Islam. They were the black Muslims, and they scared everybody. And when he joined that, America recoiled again. Now, think about this, the 60s and 70s. You don't believe me? Look what Donald Trump is doing today. He wants to ban Muslims temporarily. We're fearful of Muslims and Arabs today. You don't think that was there in the 1960s with quote unquote what people call the black Muslims? You're damn right it was. And finally, because there's more stuff, when he changed his name from his quote unquote slave name of Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, people for years refused to call him Muhammad Ali. He was Cassius. He was Clay because they wanted to remind him of what he was, and they did not want this man to embrace his new name, whereas they weren't going to embrace it. So my whole thing is this. You used to hate this guy, and I'm not talking about all of you, but a number of people hated him. And I'm not saying this is what the main narrative would be, but here's what we do in death. We only glorify people. We don't bring up their full birth. We don't tell the whole story. And in fact, I think part of this is we don't want to admit to what we used to be. Now, I know we are up against a break, but I want to ask this question.
No, the hell with that. Just keep going. Do your thing.
Here is what I want to do. See, I wanted to bring you the other side of it.
So do it.
Because I just did. Because you're not getting the full story. Mike is right. People under 55, people 20, 30, and 40 do not know the full story of Muhammad Ali just by reading these tributes. So that's why I wanted to present the other side of the full breath of the man, and also what we were as a society. You didn't start liking this man until he couldn't fight anymore. You didn't start liking this man until he couldn't talk anymore, and you didn't start liking this man until he started to shake. When he was a full-blown boxer who could kick everybody's ass, you didn't like him the way that you do now. That's my point. 248-539-9797. Here's my question for you. Real simple. Yeah, Muhammad Ali was great. I grew up loving him. We rooted for Muhammad Ali because he was anti-white. And Joe Frazier, who had the big fight, was perceived as the white guy, mostly because Muhammad Ali, and Mike, I gave you a history lesson about how we can turn black people into white.
Yeah.
He called Joe Louis a gorilla. Yep. Said he was ignorant. Said he smelled. All the stereotypes that we didn't like to be called by white folks. But Muhammad Ali, because he was so great and so embraced in the black community, he could get away with it. You know what we said when he called Joe Louis a gorilla? Right on, brother.
Frazier.
I'm sorry. When he called Frazier a gorilla, right on, brother. Right on. And Joe Frazier, who was the son of a sharecropper who faced discrimination, was perceived then as the white boxer.
Do you think Frazier was the most unfairly treated athlete ever? When you go back and look, you know, he was portrayed as the white black guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because Ali was who real black people rooted for. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side of things, you know, you had Ali, he called the man a gorilla. He used all those stereotypes, so it fed into, and again, 60s, 70s, this country's race relations were awful. I look back at that, and just from reading, I didn't live it, but you do look at Joe Frazier and go, damn, has any athlete ever gotten a raw deal than he did?
And he couldn't defend himself.
No, because he wasn't a talker.
Right. Muhammad Ali, if you got into what we used to call the dozens, tit for tat with him, you lose all the time.